And what about young children? Kids home from school, is it okay if they go have a play date down the street with their buddies?
Yeah, and I wish I could say differently, but unfortunately the answer is no at this time. Playdates are not a good idea because the entire point of canceling the schools is to create that social distancing between the kids so that they're not interacting with each other in less than 6 to 8 feet. Kids are thought to be a big contributor to actually spreading this virus. So even though kids themselves don't actually get sick from the virus, they're thought to be the ones that spread it to the adults. So it's really important to make sure your kids don't have close contact with other kids, and it's hard because they're out of school and you're not sure what to do with them, but be mindful of, if you take them out to the playground, that they're not touching anything like the plastic surfaces or the metal surfaces at the playground that don't get cleaned very often and can get contaminated. So just be real careful about their contacts as well as what they're touching. And if you're forced to have a play date or you really want to have one, then make sure you maintain that 6 to 8 feet of distance between the kids as they're interacting.
That's tough to do with little kids running around, but
it is hard. It is hard. Which is why I'm saying it's easier to just say, don't do it, for the time being.
Let them just stay home and make Jell-O or do some kind of clay activity or something.
Crafts,
but anyway,
arts and crafts, yeah.
Walk me through how children transmit to older people. Do they touch their nose and wipe their mouth and...
Well, it's the same. So the transmission from kids to adults is thought to be the same process. So it's respiratory droplets. So if a child coughs or sneezes, or they lick their hands and then touch an adult, or the adult wipes their nose or anything like that, those are all respiratory droplets that are potentially contaminated with viral particles that can then be transmitted. The tricky thing is, because kids tend to have a very low rate of infection, or at least a low rate of infection that's been diagnosed, we actually think kids are more likely to be those silent carriers. So they can have the virus and be giving it off in their respiratory secretions, but they're not getting as sick as the adults do. So we don't actually realize that the kids are sick and that they're carriers. And then you interact with your child or with other children in a normal fashion, and they could be carrying or spreading that virus. So just something to keep in mind as we're learning more about this virus, is that kids could actually also be spreading it. So if you wipe your child's nose, for example, remember to wash your hands after you do that, because even if it's your own child, it's possible, that they could be an asymptomatic carrier.